a movie.
Ooh, okay. Welcome back to a new video, and today we are going to be reviewing 28 Years Later. I know this glare is really insane, but I'm going to try my best to work around this thing. But it is worth noting in this video that, especially if you go back to my reaction to the second trailer, this trailer actually, the one that I have up right now, uh, I was very excited for this movie. Arguably, I would say that this was one of my most anticipated movies of this year. I think this trailer, as well as that spectacular first trailer, really set up like a big return for the zombie subgenre, which they don't call them zombies in the first two movies. They actually say the word zombie in this movie, and I wonder how people are gonna take that in this, who are like super fans of this. But it is very much worth noting that I was very excited for this movie. You have Danny Boyle and Alex Garland, uh, by the way, in their own rights, have had pretty incredible careers across their board. They're very their longevity has been great. Alex Garland recently put out Warfare, which is one of my favorite movies of the year so far. Did not care for Civil War as much, but I still really enjoyed what he brought to the table with Warfare. And then we have Danny Boyle, which I have to admit, I haven't seen all of his movies. There are a couple of his that I've seen like in the back of my head that I know he's made, like well, yesterday, but that was his last movie from maybe 6 or 7 years ago. But he's had a crazy career. He's like one of the most reliably consistent directors. He's always like hopped from genre to genre and has like always done a good job within them. At least that's the reputation I've heard, and at least because I know there were headlines that he did not consider. Oh, I didn't loop this. Oh, that he did not consider 28 Days Later to be a zombie movie, which I can understand where he's coming from at that. But maybe 28 Days Later is my favorite zombie movie ever. I saw the re-release of it last month when they showed and they at the very end they showed a clip of this, and it was a great clip they showed. But now, coming back to the movie, looking at it, I'm gonna talk about the general premise of this movie, which is not in either trailers. So I am gonna mention that. So if you want to go in completely blind, I'm gonna put up a thumbnail, like not a thumbnail, a timestamp here to jump to that. But I am gonna have to like talk about what this movie's about, just because it's tough. So the premise of this movie is, at least for the huge chunk of it, is that there's this kid here played by Alfie Williams, and that's, by the way, his first movie, by the way. And he has to go across mainland Britain, which has been ravaged by the infected, as you can see all of them running around, to save his mother because he finds out that there is a doctor living on the mainland. Maybe not surviving, he might be insane, but he is alive, and there's like a doctor from before the virus like laid waste to Britain. So he has to take his mom, who's sick, but human sick, not zombie sick, to see what's going on and to save her, basically. And that is the gist of this movie. Jodie Comer plays the mom, which she's really great in this. I think actually a lot of the acting across the board is really good in this. I liked Aaron Taylor Johnson in this, although he is not in the movie as much. I personally had a theory about what they could do with this character. It would be a spoiler to say what I thought it was, but they do not do it. They don't do it. But either way, I'm not going to say it, just to keep the suspense in the air. But man, this thing really threw me for a loop, and a part of it maybe is that it is not the movie I was expecting, but I do not blame it for that. If you're seeing this trailer and the last trailer, this movie is not the action horror movie that these trailers are selling. It is actually a very quiet movie, funny enough. I mean, the bits that do have the action and horror here are actually pretty great. opening and closing scenes, while especially that closing scene could be controversial, but they are my favorite parts of this movie. Mainly because that's where a lot of the zombie stuff is. A good chunk of the zombie stuff in this are in the trailers. There are a few things that are not in the trailers, but a good chunk of it is there. And the story in this does take a lot of turns. It changes throughout, which, while I normally would appreciate, I just think Alex Garland's writing for this just did not work for this. He had talked about being inspired by The Last of Us for this, but I feel like this feels like a weird, pale imitation of it. Not in the exact way of this is a ripoff of The Last of Us, but I don't know, it's tough. It's really tough to describe this movie for me. And I really do think that Danny Boyle is the kind of director that takes these risks, and normally I do appreciate creative risks in this, but nearly every single risk that is taken creatively, in terms of its presentation, did not work for me. Plain and simple. It just did not work. There are a couple of things that they do in this where I actually saw this in the scene that they showed when I saw the re-release of Days, where you see the kid in this, Spike, kill a zombie, and you might have seen it online, but there was this big rig that they used for shooting on an iPhone, but they put a circular thing around like one of the zombie stunt performers that had like maybe 20 iPhones put together. Well, not put together, but they're on the same rig, and there are certain shots where whenever a zombie is like killed, like or shot in the head, it does a quick cut and goes around like maybe 180 most of the time, maybe even sometimes like 240 angles of just like it like does a quick whip around, and it was cool in the one scene they showed, and it went overboard for me. It was genuinely really disorienting, and at some points it got hard to watch, but I don't know. I could excuse that if other things were there, but it's just not really. And another thing that I'm really disappointed to say is the score is just not it for this. The score that did it, John Murphy did not come back for this one. I know he did the first movie. Pretty sure he did the second one, but I do not know off the top of my head. Or they at least used his theme from the first movie. But they actually got the band Young Fathers to do the score, which I'm normally a fan of. Their last album was actually really good, but it was a weird pick. I was open to it. I do like that kind of like movie that takes a weird pick for a score. I think like I guess the big example is Uncut Gems and One Tricks Point Never doing the score for that, which good pick. I just don't think this worked at all. It very much just feels like a bunch of Young Fathers songs that they put in there. There are some good bits of the score, but I really feel like if I want a movie to work on me, it needs to have a score that I think fits and blends well with the tone of the movie, and it just did not for me, and I'm very disappointed about that. And I know this is pretty negative. I know that, but for the most part, I actually didn't really like this movie, which is crazy to me because I was so excited for this movie. I was like repeatedly watching that first trailer over and over again, and just it really baffled me. I remember sitting in the theater just watching there, and my soul felt crushed. The problem is with that ending scene, I'm not going to spoil it, but it sets up the next movie, which I have not mentioned that this is going to be a trilogy of movies. The first two movies, this one and the next one, which I think is titled The Bone Temple, are already shot. The second one's coming out in January, so we do not have a lot of time to wait on this. But I I would want to see after, especially after this ending, I would love to see the next movie take more of a solid tone. I really think Danny Boyle should also just, well, I mean, use the word tone again, but also tone down the wackiness just a tiny bit. I feel like a little bit here and there is good, but it's dialed up way too much in this movie. It's kind of crazy that I think that's a bad thing, knowing myself and my personal taste, but it just did not work for this movie at all. I'm still kind of in shock of like, this was an easy layup of a movie, and how did you mess it up? But another thing to add, Danny Boyle is not directing the next one. Nia DaCosta is actually, who directed the incredible Candyman remake from about 4 years ago now with Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. And I can't really think of a time where two movies are shot back to back, but they have different directors doing it. And I don't know. I can't lie and say that this shot down my disappointment of it, but I mean, I'm gonna be there. I have a YouTube channel where I talk about movies. I'm not gonna say that I'm not watching a new horror movie because this is it, but because this is what I like, this is what I do. But man, this one really just hurt a little bit. This one hurt. And apparently I know that I'm in the minority on this. I've been seeing a lot of great positive responses to this, but in some regards I'm just kind of baffled that it is like people are loving this, and it makes me sad because I wish I could see the movie that these other people are seeing, and I just don't with this one. And it sucks, man. It really sucks that I just did not gel with this at all. Again, I'm gonna be seeing the Bone Temple. I think if it really, I think it could be a decent sign that Danny Boyle is not directing this. All the respect to him, but I feel like we need someone else in the director's chair for this, and we know that because Nia DaCosta is doing it. I think if you could narrow it down a little bit, tone down the craziness of the presentation without getting rid of how effective the rest of the zombie scenes are in this movie, I feel like the next one could be something special. But I can't get it out of the back of my head now that I watched this movie. I went, wow, that was really bad. Like, at some points, to me, I said this earlier, everything that did go wrong, everything that could have gone wrong, went wrong for me. And I really hope that doesn't really hope that doesn't bias me on the next movie, or the third movie, which has yet to be shot. And this is more of a nitpick than anything to me. I know it doesn't really matter about continuity and stuff like that, but this was like something I noticed after I watched it. There's not really any connection with the other two movies other than you see shots from weeks, which I think is really funny. That like you see footage from weeks but not days. But I need to wrap it up there. I feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack. But overall, I'm actually gonna take down the copyright blocker just to get that up. Overall, 28 Years Later is probably going to be my most disappointing movie of the year. While there are good elements of it, the acting especially, a lot of the horror effects themselves, like the makeup for the zombies, are really good and mostly practical out of what I could tell. Just Alex Garland's writing and story choices across the board just did not gel with them. A couple of them made me actively angry, but that doesn't help when Danny Boyle's directing was just not up to the standard that I was hoping it'd be. It really felt like he kept trying so many different ways to make it look cool to distract from how little is from how little things are happening right now. And I don't that's just a pet peeve of mine. I also really did not vibe with the editing of this. It reminded me a lot of, oh, like we have to pander, not pander, but like we know that younger people are probably going to watch this movie, so we're going to edit this a little bit quicker with not we're not going to have too many longer shots. And it normally doesn't bother me in some movies, but it did not it did not gel with me this time. And that's like the blanket statement. This did not work for me at all. Again, I'm going to be there for the next one because this is not like a Rebel Moon situation where I just went, I'm done. I'm good. I'm not gonna watch the rest of these if they make any more. But it's not to that level. But I feel like this was just a huge fumble. So I'm gonna give 28 years later a C minus. I I can't believe it, really. But that's what I gotta do. That's what I'm here to show my thoughts on this, and I gotta be honest. So, that's what I'm feeling. Yeah, that is gonna be the end of the video.